Hello, I'm Don Mooers. Welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. Scientists, in addition to businesses, students, and so many other folks, seem to be very upset about the new immigration regulations that have been promulgated by the Trump administration and the impact that they're going to have on innovation. These regs will have on innovation in this country. Dr. Bruce Fowler comments on scientific issues on a regular basis for this program. We'll discuss what he sees as issues. The future of the minimum wage bill in Montgomery County is now in doubt, especially since it was vetoed recently by County Executive Ike Leggett. Will we see it come back in any fashion? Jane DeWinter, who comments on Montgomery Week in Review, has the details. When one begins to investigate nursing homes to care for a loved one, especially for a parent, you've got to really be careful about what you sign when the time comes to have your parent go and start living in one of these nursing homes. Stuart Rosenthal, publisher of The Beacon, will tell us about why this is so important. He's got other stories to share with us as well. National news certainly has a big impact locally, given that Washington, D.C. is right next to us. Brian Karem knows this as much as anyone else, executive editor of the Sentinel newspaper. He's been attending White House press conferences with his good friend Spicer, and he's here to explain what he's learning and how all of this is impacting our county today and probably tomorrow as well. Bruce, welcome back, Dr.
Thank
Fowler.
you.
It's great to have you.
Good to see you again.
These immigration regulations, this ban or not ban on 7 countries, Muslims, not Muslims, whatever the case may be. You're coming in. You're particularly interested in seeing how it might impact scientific research here in the United States, aren't you?
Yes. The situation is now that a great deal of the scientific research being conducted in our universities and in high-tech companies is conducted by foreign nationals. The latest statistics on MIT that I saw, that 42% of their graduate students are from other countries.
And Massachusetts Institute of Technology,
Right.
one of our leading lights, that's
Yeah.
a lot of people, nearly half coming from international.
That's correct. And these people wouldn't be there if they weren't top echelon. That's part of it. Now this is important because these are smart people, these are motivated people, they contribute a lot to our society. And you can imagine what would our situation be now if Albert Einstein, who was an immigrant, wasn't on our team and during World War II. That's one concern. But from the point of view of biotech companies, such as we have here in Maryland, they depend on these foreign nationals who have good skills, and they come here because they want an opportunity.
So the concern I'm hearing, I mean, the initial ban or initial controls for 90 days is on 7 countries. The concern, give me if I'm right, the concern isn't so much about what just these 7 countries, but what it can mean going down the road, maybe a chilling impact. Do you think this does?
It's two things. It's a chilling impact if you're sitting in another country trying to decide whether you come to the United States or Canada or Germany or some other place.
Because we're competing for these folks.
We're competing for these brains. That's really what we're doing. And if you think, and particularly if you have a family, that I'm going into this country and I may not be able to get out, or I may get stuck in some kind of limbo, that would lead you to perhaps going another route. The other part of it, though, is that these countries, these 7 countries, are just the tip of the iceberg. And the capricious nature by which this ban was unrolled and how quick it was done suggests that it could happen to other countries. In other words, it might be some other country from Africa or Germany or Thailand.
There's no doubt it was poorly rolled out, and it's been very disruptive. But my understanding is those 7 countries were all named in prior laws as being sponsors of terrorism, so that doesn't limit it to those 7 countries.
No, that's not true. The truth of the matter is those are the countries where the President of the United States doesn't have a business interest. Those that have had links to those that have had
legislation.
No, I'm sorry, you're completely in error. That's completely in error. The simple fact of the matter is those who were named as contributing to ISIS and terrorism were not named, like Saudi Arabia. So I'm tired of hearing that about 7 countries that have been previously named, because that's bunk. And the simple fact of the matter is, it's a chilling effect on our country. It is a chilling effect on people who travel outside of this country, from this country, and I know people who are rethinking hard about education and coming to this country, because we are now seen as nothing more than a medieval equivalent of some city-state ruled by a moron.
So wait.
So I'm sorry, I'm done. I've been down there in the White House press room listening to this seven-country bunk for a while, and there's no. Have you read the executive order? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We're gonna. That's a preview, folks. Of what the first segment of Brian's love with Sean Spicer. But so good.
Okay, so I do have a question. So it's interesting because picking up on Stuart's theme, and don't start yelling at me, Brian. One might say, okay, well, yeah, we're stopping the terrorists, but this order stopped everybody who was coming from that country, even if they were legally allowed to be in the United States, didn't it?
Well, there are two parts to this. And I'll just give you a statistic, which I looked up yesterday. The 4 top countries for students coming into this country are, the top one's China, the second one's India, third one's South Korea, the fourth one is Saudi Arabia. Okay, so, and you have to remember that a couple of those folks in 9/11 were from Saudi Arabia.
We have about a minute left.
Okay. The other part there, which I think Brian's raised here, is that once you put a chill on this system, the bureaucracy doesn't unwind itself very quickly. Even though it's only a 3-month ban, it may take 3 years. If somebody said, "Okay, we're going to stop this now,"
that doesn't make sense to me.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it does.
You have to understand that bureaucrats, are very cautious people. They don't do anything. They're not allowed to do anything without
permission.
permission.
The 3 months is to develop vetting procedures, which will then be in place.
There are already vetting procedures that are 2 years, and you know better than we do.
We're coming. Your point's very good. The NSEERS, the registration of Muslims that started right after 9/11, didn't end until 2016. So you make a very good point on that. But we have to end.
Oh, we're just getting started.
Give me one final word, if you're okay with this. Give me final. Where are we headed? What needs to be done, and so that we're not going to adversely impact science, while also, if we are able to respect the issues in terms of making sure America's safe.
Okay, America's safe. If you look at it from the lens of terrorists, that's one thing. But we have environmental issues, we have public health issues, we have other kinds of things where these folks that are not coming here play important roles right now. And that means that it won't be maybe this year, but a year from now we might have a problem like lead in drinking water.
Okay, all right. And so many of these folks have been involved in helping to solve these issues.
Yes, they have.
You're going to come back again?
Oh, sure.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Now, we know that if they come to Montgomery County, and they're at the start of their careers, they're not going to get a higher minimum wage.
No, they probably, all these scientists are probably going to be working for $10.75 an hour.
What happened? So the council, as I understand it, and Jane, welcome back, the council pretty unanimously put forward the minimum wage hike to $15 an hour over time. The county executive mulled it over and then vetoed it.
Yeah.
Is that it in a nutshell?
Yes, and I think that, when you were asking about the future, the immediate future is that the council doesn't have the 6 votes to override. So it's not going to happen anytime soon. I think it was brought up. There are people in the state legislature who, had been talking about it at the state level, and people who probably are interested in bringing it back up again this year at the state level, though I don't think that's going to happen, at least not in a way where it's meaningfully going forward. But the reasoning was that we shouldn't be the only county in the state who does this, because then we're going to be at a competitive disadvantage to everywhere else. And so, that was Ike's reasoning, really. Well, he wanted to delay it even more, and I think partly to wait and see if there was some state movement.
How much do you think of it was a political move by council members wanting to ingratiate themselves with the voting populace, knowing full well that Ike would nix it, so they can run on that issue when they run for county executive, because there are plenty of them that want to. That was the speculation. Anyway.
Well, I really like to think that everybody's acting out of pure pure heart.
I love you, Jane.
Right. No, I'm kidding, because I'm a big cynic. But yeah, I mean, that could be part of it, that that he's going to. I mean, there definitely are. I mean, even within the nonprofit community, that I was privy to a lot of discussions, because a lot of nonprofits serve their clients who are working poor, and so there was a lot of push that, okay, this is really going to help people who are making the minimum wage, and that it's going to elevate them. But then on the other hand, there was this whole segment of nonprofits, in addition to who we might think like retail and fast food, against it, because they meant that they had to pay their own people that.
But let's put this, I mean, also it's important, I think, putting it in perspective, because when we talk about the minimum wage numbers, I think annualizing that of a full-time job it's a good exercise.
$31,200.
So you're looking at $30,000 a year at $15 an hour. You're looking at $10 an hour. You're looking at basically $20,000 a year. In this county, it's pretty difficult to live on $20,000 a year.
Exactly, it
Hard
is.
to live on $30,000.
Hard to
Well,
live
yeah,
on
I mean, the
$30,000
living
a
wage in this county is considered $22 an hour, which is $45,000 a year. So yeah, I mean, the minimum wage isn't even.
You're an economist.
Yes.
How do we balance the business and the nonprofits' interests, and then also I think the interests also of teens. I think they're talking about as
Right.
to have them be able to get these startup jobs.
Right.
With the needs of a family, we want them to be living in Montgomery County. How do you afford it? How do you balance this? Crystal ball. How do you make this work?
Well, I mean, really, there is room. I mean, in the economy, there's definitely jobs that you're not as productive as somebody else. I mean, I think we all accept that maybe somebody coming from MIT as a scientist is probably not going to be in the position of having to work for minimum wage, because you've got different skills, et cetera, and productivity. So I guess the question is, what's sort of the floor on that? But I think part of the problem is that the jobs that are in the middle, whether you're talking about nationally with the whole manufacturing sector or whatever, those jobs have gone away. So that we have people who really are capable of doing more having to take minimum wage jobs, and that's the whole thing. I mean, I think if it was teenagers who were making the $11.50 an hour that the minimum wage will be at the end of this year, I think people were like, they're just
So maybe we need to
starting
do
out.
more in the way of training people, of retraining people to have jobs
Right.
they
Well,
can
I
make a
think
living at.
but I think it's not just retraining the people; it's that the jobs, a lot of the job sector
about
is
20
gone.
seconds.
Service jobs just don't pay as much as technical jobs, IT jobs.
I mean, teaching them how to take
manufacturing.
technical jobs. is
still
what I
have
mean.
Yeah,
to
but
have
you've got to
someone
have
serve
the
your food.
jobs too.
Serving food, service seems to be where we're headed, isn't it?
Yeah.
We got to stop. You can come in on the second half, but use
I
your point.
wanted to bring up robotics, but okay.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jane.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after these messages. We've got to take a break now.
I didn't even realize.
And we're back. The Beacon,
Yes.
yet again, telling us all these things that we need to know. I had no idea, Stuart.
That there's a filial responsibility law in Maryland.
Oh my God! Wow.
About half the states still have these laws. They used to be in every state, where adult children are responsible to take care of their parents' food, clothing, and shelter if they don't have the money of their own to take care of themselves. Those mostly went by the wayside after Medicaid came around, because Medicaid and Medicare, they take care of a lot of these costs for older folks. But about half the states still have the laws. Maryland is one of them, so is Virginia. There's several places where it does and doesn't apply, and that's what the article is about. So in Maryland, for example, nursing homes are forbidden from taking advantage of the filial responsibility law and requiring children to pay for their parents unless the child signs a written agreement to pay that.
Where would you see it? Would that
And
be
get-
like a
yes,
hidden
you-
paragraph somewhere
Let's
in the middle?
say if the person's admitting themselves or their spouse to a nursing home, they would fill it out and they'd say, I take responsibility or whatever, it's fine. But when the child is filling it out, and I've been in this situation myself, you get to this paragraph that says, and the signer agrees to be guarantor of all expenses covered with da-da-da. And you think, wait a minute, I'm signing this, but I'm not their guarantor. Why am I signing this guarantee? So you have to cross it out, you have to have a lawyer take a look at it, you have to say, I'm not going to sign this contract, whatever, because they'll slip it in.
I bet very few people actually.
It's probably
notice
true.
it.
But it hasn't been an issue so much because most nursing homes in Maryland and other places don't go suing people for this.
Okay.
But they can. And in some states, they've started to. And in fact, in some places, siblings have started suing each other.
Oh, neat.
In Pennsylvania,
Family love. I love family love.
there was one brother who was taking care of the parents at his home, and he was having a lot of expenses. His other brother wasn't chipping in.
Right.
So we sued his brother under the responsibility law, and he won.
Oh.
So, okay, you have to be aware.
This reminds me of what we were reading in the paper maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago about Social Security going after children
That's
of
true too.
parents
Right,
who had gotten, some kind of benefits.
Medicaid.
Is that the same kind of thing, or is
I think
that
it's a different set of laws,
Okay.
but it's the same kind of issue. The question is, how do we pay for these nowadays? The nursing homes cost $150,000 a year now.
Yeah.
I mean, the expenses are very high, and the care goes on forever. People live very, very long.
Let me ask you about this intellectually. I think of the funeral rule where the loved one passes, and the funeral home director can't say, can't put the hard sell. You have to have the prices. They can say, well, if you really loved your loved one, you do the deluxe one. And is it the same sort of thing with nursing homes, that if you don't agree to take the responsibility, well, we don't know if we're going to be able to give the full care to your loved one? Your
No, I
parent,
don't
if
think
you
that's the
sign
way.
off?
No, I don't think anyone's doing that yet.
They're not booting them out or
Yeah.
anything,
No,
right?
generally speaking, what would normally happen is a person who was running out of money would apply for Medicaid,
Right.
and then Medicaid would pay
When
for
they
it. Now
run
the
out of
problem
money,
is
right.
Medicaid pays about half of what the nursing homes would get from private pay and what they really want to get.
Gotcha.
So they're not so happy about that either.
Okay.
Furthermore, Medicaid won't pay if the parent has given lots of assets to their child within 5 years of applying for Medicaid. And that's another factor here, because a lot of parents are unloading a lot of their wealth onto their kids so that they don't have to pay.
I understand that. Although my parents older here, it just seems that whole shifting of resources to avoid paying your fair share.
So in that case, you really need to fill the
we get that,
responsibility.
yeah.
Right.
And whether it's 3 years or 5 years, 7 years, whatever,
Five now.
it's 5 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's incredible. What other stories do you have?
Oh, Path of Achievement Awards. The annual Neil Potter Path of Achievement Award is given by Montgomery Volunteer Center and whatnot, and they recognize older adults, people over 60, who have really had a lifetime of volunteer service to the county or to other organizations. So we're looking for 2 people. There are nominations being accepted right now through February 24th. And get your nominee in. If there's a group you've been working with, someone's been an exemplary volunteer, or just somebody you know who's going to be above and beyond, go ahead and nominate them for this award. It's a very nice honor, and it's very well received, given at the stage in Bethesda. Imagination Stage. I've lost my imagination.
No, you had the MMA. You were good.
Right,
MMA.
right.
I think you were talking about the Fight Club or whatever. They're fighting this. Fighting one another.
That would sell tickets.
What? Finally, there's love. Love is in the air on your cover story.
It's February, right? So our cover story is about dating. Online dating in general. The fact that older adults are really doing more of this, and there are actually more specific services that are designed specifically for older adults and help them to matchmaking services. So they're out there. They're worth looking into.
It's never too old to fall in love, is it?
Yeah,
I
right.
know. When my uncle was
The heart wants
widowed,
what the heart wants.
he went on Match.com and he wanted to know why was 50 Shades of Grey so many women's favorite books.
Oh, we have another
We
story
had to
about that.
explain that.
Okay. The editor of 50 Shades of Grey is 90 years old, the film editor, and she won an Academy Award a few months ago for her film editing work. So that's.
Is she dating? Is she on
No, they quote, yes, it's in the story. No, they quote her in the story as saying, when I first saw the film, I thought, this has to be sexier. This is not being done right. So she sexed up the movie. So there you go.
Okay, well, that's where we're going to end up with 50 Shades of Grey and Stuart
I'm telling you
Rosenthal.
50 Shades of Red right now.
Yeah, right.
So funny. Listen, now,
How do you transit from
Brian,
that?
I'm going to segue into this.
Deserved it.
That's a
Look
heck
out,
of a
here it comes.
segue.
So our best local version of 50 Shades of Grey is the White House press office with Sean Spicer up there
don't know if it's that
instead of
sexy.
Christian Grey. He's
Well,
our Christian Grey of today.
At the
You're
second-
manacled. You can't say anything. You got you everything.
Well, that's not exactly
whips
true.
and chains.
I'll say this much: it is a much more rough and tumble White House than it was during the Obama administration. And when Trump came in, we decided at the Sentinel that what's going on down there has a huge effect on us locally, maybe more so than in the recent past. So I assigned one of our columnists and myself to cover Congress, the Senate, and the White House on a regular basis to see what we can mine out of there that's of interest to local readers. Mm-hmm. We've had numerous emails, numerous requests, numerous questions. Mm-hmm. And so what we decided to do was to take our time to try and separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak.
Okay.
And I've found that there's a lot of wheat and a lot of chaff, and it's an ongoing process in trying to figure out exactly what the truth and the facts are.
But before we get into facts and truth and all that stuff, and I know there are a lot of questions, can you explain, I mean, this is a tremendous amount of resources that
Yes.
you're dedicating. Explain to me how this is, you justify that.
Well, I think it's justifiable by the interest in the community. There has been an overriding. I'm exhausted already after 2 weeks, but the amount of email that we have generated or has been sent to us shows that there are people in this county who definitely want to know, is this right? Is this true? What's fact? What's not? Please tell me.
Coming from the local level.
So we're trying to let them know. One of the biggest what we alluded to earlier, the executive order. So what we did when the executive order on the ban that wasn't a ban, it is a ban, came out, we simply published the executive order with the annotation saying, look,
Right.
I'm not going to tell you what this means. Read it yourself and you decide. There was no mention of Muslim or ISIS, but the 7 countries weren't even mentioned. There was an allusion to what those countries were, and so you had to look up a previous thing to find out why. The same thing with the sanctuary executive order. When Yates was fired, and these are 2 facts. I'll say this was the press release.
The acting attorney general.
When the acting attorney general was axed, the president put out a press release. We published the press release, and these were the 2 facts that we published with it. This is the press release. In 35 years of covering this White House off and on, I have personally never seen anything like this.
Right.
Draw your own conclusions and your own opinion. And there are people that are happy and there are people who are sad about it.
Let's open this up because I know
You
people
said
got
you had
some
a good
questions.
question. I'm ready.
Well,
baby.
yeah, but I know it's going to be a frivolous question.
I have no idea.
Right. I know. It's totally off topic, except it's not. So my perception is, looking at pictures of Mr. Donald Trump, that he's decidedly less orange than he used to be. Is that true in person?
There is, it wasn't that he's less orange, it's the type of lights that were used made it seem so. So he had a request, some photographers actually were talking about that, not to use tungsten lighting so he doesn't look as
Maybe, let's get to some of Bruce's points in terms of science and where you're looking ahead. Where are we, is this White House, because some people have accused of being anti-science and some of the facts, and this gets into your truth versus fiction world, and this is such a huge issue for you about dealing with facts.
The fact of the matter in that regard is that there is every reason to believe that there is a large number of people in that White House, whether it is the president himself, I do not know, who seem to take issue with not specifically with climate change because of their association with fossil fuels.
Sure.
So it's driven by economy.
Yes.
And then science in general because it helps them sell the message that climate change is questionable. So it's kind of a 2-pronged approach. Now, whether or not they honestly believe that, I cannot tell you because I don't know.
We've got about 45 seconds left.
Can I
Good. 45 seconds. Go ahead.
I'm going to jump back in on that. The climate change and what's being done to EPA, for example. Okay, they're being muzzled.
It's not exactly, see, that's not accurate. It's not exactly a muzzling, but it has the effect of muzzling them.
Okay.
And so you still have the ability,
seconds.
and that's why it's killing me because the left and the right are getting these things wrong. And they are, all of them are arguing from their philosophical cul-de-sac without calling it what it is and without looking at what it really
Jane's
is.
got one last question.
Well, I just want to say, so this morning in the Post, sorry guys,
quick.
competitor, the article on Katie Tur, reporter Katie
Right.
Tur, and how Trump has treated her. I think people should
I
read that.
think
And
the
what do
bottom
you-
line
does
there
you
in
see
that
in
press
the
room,
One second.
in that
One word.
press room, it is very important to realize he is going to put those who he likes there
Okay.
and going to not
We're
listen to
done.
the rest of us.
Okay, and we just listened to you, we listened to you, and I want to thank you because it's been a great show. Thank you so much, and thank all of you in the viewing audience for listening to us, sharing with us. We'll be back next week at this very same time, and we invite you to join us. This is Don Mooers, Montgomery Weekend Review, saying so long.